So, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned earlier, relevance to the program really matters, and that's where players need to do their due diligence. And I share with players all the time not to underestimate how good next level players are.
Mm.
And the gap in high school and college is significant. And a lot of players become very significant players. You're just talking about your life story, how you turned into a high draft pick and played pro ball, but out of high school, you weren't as far along. But it doesn't mean you're not a great player. And I think that's what people need to understand. Everyone in their baseball journey hits these levels at different points. So you can't take it personally if you're not getting that real interest immediately. You just have to, it's just telling you, keep doing the work.
Yeah.
And so, like for me, I think players get confused here where my question that I'm leading toward is, when players evaluate themselves, a lot of them say they're Division One players because that's what in their head they've always wanted.
Mhm.
Okay. And sometimes their stats in high school, they batted 420, they have a 97-mile-an-hour ball exit speed on a tee. So they think that makes them a Division One player. And so, the question is that what creates, is it that just because they want Division One and they have a stat there that says you have something that you can do that's capable? Is that what makes you a Division One operator? Or is there more about this than just a stat? Like, are you recruiting on a stat, or is it more some of the intangibles, like how you handle adversity, how you compete, and all that whole package together is really what defines the player?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think the stat line gets your name out there, right? The first thing, like if that's what you do is, hey, here's my bat exit velocity, it's 95. As a coach, you're like, oh, okay, cool, let's look at it. If you post one and it's 73, I'm not going to look at it. Like it just honest. If it's 95, you get a look, right? So then on the coach's job, what each program should do, in my opinion, you got to start doing some digging, right? There are intangibles. Just because you can do that on a tee, do you have bat to ball skills in a game? Can you make in swing adjustments? Can you make at bat to at bat adjustments? Can you kind of play the game within the game? Do you take what the game's giving you? Third baseman's playing back and I can run, then why am I not going to try to lay down a bunt here? Simple things like that. You may throw 90 miles an hour or 92 and you think I'm a Division One guy. The way baseball's shaking up now, if you're 90 to 92 and you don't have fastball command to both sides of the plate, good programs aren't going to take you. It's just the way that the nature of the beast is. There's college hitters can catch up to 92 to 95. They see it more often now. So I, yeah, I feel like that just because you want to be a Division One player doesn't mean you're a Division One player. I've said this since I coached at a junior college and went that route and played there. I truly believe there's a place for everybody to play college baseball. There's enough programs spread out all over the country through all levels. You've got NJCAA, which is your JUCOs, and you have Division One, Two, and Three in that. You have NCAA, which one, two, three in the divisions there, and then you have NAIA. If you truly want to play, there's a place for you. You just have to be willing to go to that place, right? Like you have to. It may be traveling across country to play Division Three baseball. But if that's something you're that interested in doing, there's a place for you.
And when you say, I mean, I would back that by saying if you're that interested in playing, it should be reflected by how hard you're working to
Yeah.
achieve that.
Yeah,
So
those two things need to match.
I find it hard to believe when you take 50 swings a day that you're really saying, I want to be a top hitter. Like, I don't think that was your program. And I know
No.
I didn't throw a ball one time a week and say I want to be a better player. So the work
Right.
ethic kind of reflects that. And this wasn't a question we taled about, but in a normal college schedule, you're putting 3 to 5 hours of work in daily between weights, practices, and then we're not even talking about game time. So for the guys at home, the question is about finding the right fit. And if you're invested in the process and you're one of those guys that has that kind of determination drive to succeed, then you probably are somebody who's going to be fitting in a high program. But if you're a guy who puts 30 minutes a day into your baseball activity, I could tell you right now, you're in for a world of trouble if you think you fit at a Division One, because everyone in high school was a great player that went on to college. So the guys now that separate in college and actually get meaningful playing time are very significant, and they've been putting the work in. So it's not a change for them to be in a weight room and get their swings and work on their defense and look at film and doing all the things and the meetings with the coaches and all the other component and doing their schoolwork. So
Hmm.
for me, when we're talking about a fit, okay, clearly there's people that choose the wrong fit and they wind up realizing like this is a bad choice and then they're jumping from school to school. That's not what we want for players. That's not what you want as coaches. So, in talking about a fit, okay, you have this guy who's the hard worker. You have the guy who competes in game, and he's got some real good intangibles. But, your stats aren't everything. But as you said, they do matter. So if you're that guy who has a 77-mile-an-hour fastball, but you do command it, you can throw a breaking ball. In terms of looking at fits and next level, what would you advise these guys so that they're not wasting time looking at places that aren't viable, or you have a 3.2 GPA and you're hoping to get into an Ivy. Like, the fit here really matters. And if you do this right, it makes the recruiting process go so much better. So, like, for example, if you're a Division I player, wouldn't you suggest at this time frame, if you're 2021, that there's conversations that have already begun? Or if they're not, they need to begin. And if they're not happening, then maybe you could read between the lines and say, maybe we need to be looking at a different place. But when you're recruiting, you're looking to better your program. So for me, I'm sharing to players that if they feel they deem you as a capable player in the way that you're making a program better, there will be immediate, moving forward. And sometimes there's very capable players that you can't go forward with because you're already done at that position.
Hmm.
So, you may be the best catcher in Connecticut, but if you're not needing a catcher in that role, maybe you'll have a conversation with the guy, but you may need to find a different program, not because you're not capable, you're just not the right fit. And this is why I want to kind of touch on the fit piece of this.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of good information out there, more so now than when I was coming up. But there's not a day that goes by that I'm not on the phone with a 21, and he's asking about how many guys we have committed in that class. And let's say it's a middle infielder, for instance, and the kid asks, "Well, coach, I went on perfect game, and you guys have 3 21 committed shortstops. So why are we on the phone? Like, are you done committing that position?" Um, and the answer for me is no, we're not done, obviously, because we're on the phone. If we were done, I wouldn't have picked up the phone and called you and still try to actively recruit you. Um, I will say that it does get to that point, but if that program's calling you, then they're not done. If you're looking at a school and you want to go to that school, you reach out to them. If you don't hear back, especially in these times, like in a normal setting, you may not hear back from them because they're getting scouting reports and traveling and doing all the baseball stuff. But in these times, if you're not hearing back from them, there's probably a reason why. It's not because coach he's too busy to get back to you, or he hasn't checked his email or his Twitter account or Instagram or wherever he's putting his stuff out. Um, it's probably because there's not a fit. He just doesn't have the heart to tell you. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. And, I'll like to wrap it up with this here. We are grateful for the relationships that we've built with programs. And I've known Coach Foster many, many years, who's at Army. And, I know a lot of programs just for making my business to stay plugged in. And I know on the recruiting side, as much as you guys are getting after it in every other program, you can't know everybody. So you do appreciate, for the most part, guys that you can trust because maybe they can lead you to a program and maybe lead that player to you faster before he is out there. And then, maybe he gets distracted away and maybe he could have been a fit for you. Now he's well down the road with a different program. And, he winds up being a guy that now doesn't wind up helping your team. So
Sure.
like, I think what our players need to know is that when we communicate with programs like yourself or any other college program, we're not telling you if he can play. We're just sharing that this is somebody that you should know about, and then you're going to decide. Like, you guys are very capable of deciding, but I think a lot of our players think, can you tell them I'm a great player? Like, they're good. You guys are going to, can you kind of just, we'll finish with that. So like in communication, if we communicate and we share the information and it's not going further, it's not a personal thing. It's just they have a strength at their program there that they don't need you. And it's not because you're bad all the time. It's
Mhm.
just like we're talking about with the fit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think you nail it when you talk about we lean heavily on guys like yourself with programs, with high school programs, guys that we can trust, guys that when we reach out to and we say, hey, who do you have in this class? Whatever position it is, regardless. Who do you have? And then you give us a name or four names and say, hey, here's my best four guys at this position. Go after them. Here's their contact info. Let me know what else you need. And I think another vital piece to that is when we get them, let's say they all commit to us, right? In a perfect world, they all commit to us. We've gone and watched them in the intangibles match and the skill set matches, and boom, they come to our program. One thing that we can rely on and we can lean on here is if there is a trust built up between who we essentially got them from, we can ask you, like, what's the trigger? What makes this guy tick? Like I can't get him to stay inside of baseball as a hitter, or as a pitcher, he's pulling off with his front side, whatever that case may be. What helped you have success with that kid? And then that's easy for you, right? Because you've had him for X amount of years and you've done some work on the back end where when we get him at our program and we want him to perform as a freshman and have a chance to play, we can call you and say, hey, what's the verbal? What exactly did you use with Johnny? And you say, okay, cool. Tell him to cut the ball in half. Or, hey, he's always rolling over and getting on top of it. Get underneath one real quick. Just simple vocabulary that you use with that guy can help us. But without those relationships built for years past in programs everywhere, right? Then none of this matters. None of it's effective.
yeah, and you know, for that's why history really, you know, history of being credible, history of you know, lead having guys get to a place and continue to play well, like all these things, like they all weigh into decisions. And so for all our players, we always put you out there, do the best we can. But for us to keep our credibility, you know, you were asking, you know, I don't know who missed this point, but you know, who are your best 21 outfielders? Your best. I've never heard a coach say, Mike, who are your average outfielders? Like, can you give me a couple average names? Like, so for the players at home, in getting this fit and getting it done right, you got to get into that sentence that I am going to be the best outfielder. And that's why high baseball and even the best outfielder in Connecticut may not be going to do because they took the best outfielder from North Carolina. So
Right.
it's about moving toward being your personal best. And that's, I think, what it comes down to. And so I think if we finish on that, I could talk to you all day. I love doing this here, Logan. I appreciate your time, but I know you're busy. But in closing, wouldn't you agree it's about just being your personal best? And if that's the case, you're striving for that. As you said, there will be a program, and it just means you might need to open your horizons.
Yeah, just open your eyes. And if you say baseball's important to you and you truly love it, invest in it. Invest in yourself. If making money is important to you, then everybody tries to find a way to make money. If being a good father is important to you, you find a way to be a good father. But there's a lot of people who, and it's a line that I say, and I catch a lot of flack from our guys. Don't talk about it, be about it. Like, quit saying that you're working hard or quit saying that you're grinding. Like, just do it. Just zip it and go after it, man. If you want it that bad, then put in the work that it takes. And you nailed it earlier with the weight room piece. Like, how much physically stronger are you getting during these unprecedented times? Or are you just sitting there playing Xbox and you dedicate a little bit of time to baseball? Like, it's not going to work that way because when we do open up and get a chance to play and recruit and do all these things again, it's going to show who put in their work, whose body's made a positive change. And like, there's another like old lady on YouTube that talks about getting fat and sassy or something. Like, did you get fat and sassy, or did you put in the work? So if it's important to you, you'll truly find that time. Just don't talk about it, be about it.
Logan, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Really appreciate your time with us. Thanks so much. And hopefully
Absolutely.
you have a few guys coming your way. All right. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Mike.
Stay safe. Thanks. Bye.